What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the 715 Brew Crew Tailgate Podcast as part of the Man Cave Podcast that is brought to you by Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. Dan here with you. Brandon's going to join me in a second. Just a quick reminder, don't forget to follow both of these podcasts, the Man Cave Podcast and the 715 Brew Crew Tailgate Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you could, give us a 5-star review and a positive rate, or a 5-star rating and a positive review. That way it helps other people find the podcast. Let's talk some Brewers baseball, though, Brandon. We are less than 2 weeks away from opening day. I want to ask you two questions. One, what is still the biggest unknown or the biggest question mark from this team that we have yet to figure out from everything in spring training? Is it still the shortstop and trickle-down effect from that? And then, from what we've seen or heard about, what do you think is the biggest strength, or maybe the biggest, or the thing you have the most confidence in as we get set for this season? Start with the first one. Don't look at me like that ever again. So, I gotta turn your camera on so people know what I'm talking about.
No, that's not necessary. No, I mean, yeah, you mentioned. I think the biggest question mark is still just kind of how that infield.
You're choking up this
a little
morning,
bit.
dude.
I'm just that emotional when I'm talking about who that fourth infielder is.
Or you're getting that old already.
Well, that too. But yeah, just who that fourth infielder is going to be, I think, is still the big issue. And we're still in that phase where we're seeing a couple different alignments, so it's not like we've got a definitive answer there, but we will.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I think the thing I'm most confident in, I just feel like at this point, like, whoever makes it out of the bullpen, like, I just feel like the Brewers, more than anything, have just kind of earned the benefit of the doubt when it comes to, oh, well, this guy made it over this guy. Well, then there's probably a reason for it, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and usually there's a spot or two, and then you always wonder about how, you know, like a Rule 5 pick like Connor Thomas, if he makes it, because that's a guaranteed spot, and if not, then who, and that kind of stuff. So that's probably the directions I would go.
So I was talking about him a little bit yesterday, but the 17-year-old that is like making waves or turning heads, not only for the Brewers but for Major League, is Jesus Made. And I don't know if you saw, I saw it yesterday afternoon too, like his first card that is now everybody's on the hunt for. It's a 1-of-1 that he autographed and such. It looks pretty sweet, actually. So, but, you know, I know people are probably going to, and the Brewers kind of were too. I think it was Adam McCullough's piece, but you know, the Jackson Cheerio route and such. And I was just like putting in perspective a little bit. When I was 17, I was graduating high school.
All right.
And this is a guy now that, you know, is playing pro ball, but now as Jordan would say, the roof is the ceiling, and there's a lot of, you know, high expectations for this kid. And, you know, you look at the farm system, the updated farm systems, the Brewers are 7th, and that's with Cheerio leaving, you know, that those rankings. And he's already, I think, 56 on there. I mean, what else can you tell us that you know a little bit about, you know, this kid, this international signing? He's just 17. He looks like he's a 17-year-old, too, for crying out loud. But, I mean, and I know older Brewers fans are going to be like, well, Robin Yount played when he was 18 and that. But, I mean, it's a different time, right?
And Robin Yount had to play some significant time before he actually got good.
Yeah.
Like, no, and I think, you just take your time with him. I mean, he's a switch-hitting infielder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll see as time goes on if, you know, one way or the other he kind of focuses more right or left. But, yeah, just someone with all the tools you look for. But, you know, like you mentioned, he's 17 and he's going to be playing stateside for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I always think in spots like this, you just don't want to rush it.
Yeah.
If someone is good enough to be moved up, they'll tell you by how they play and how they handle everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's, you know, seeing the success that Jackson Cheerio had, you immediately think, oh, why can't he do that? But it's like, that's pretty rare.
Right.
You know, if it happens, great, but you don't want to assume it's going to just because it happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So you take your time. I mean, maybe he starts with the Carolina Mudcats. That's kind of their lowest, you know, stateside affiliate. And you kind of go from there. And, you know, if things...
Because Appleton's right above them, right?
Yes.
There's the high A.
Yeah. Carolina's A-ball. Appleton's high A, Biloxi's double A, and then triple A is Nashville.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's when you look at some of these, you know, Cooper Pratt's also a shortstop, but, you know, I know Jesus is listed as a shortstop or third baseman. over there too. But I mean, for all the talk that we're talking about, who's playing shortstop for the Brewers this year, they've got a couple of young prospects and who knows if they're going to be on this team in the next couple of years, right? I mean, that's the thing about baseball. I feel like that with these younger prospects, it's maybe they're on, maybe they're not. Maybe they're a part of a trade for a guy that's going to be an immediate impact for this team. So how much can we really kind of, put a lot of enthusiasm in this because we don't know if they will be there.
Right, you can't get too far ahead of yourself. It's just one of those things you kind of take it, a year at a time. I mean, as much fun as it is to think, what's the roster going to, or what's the lineup going to be like in 3 years? Who knows? Like, those. It's just they're nice to have. It's nice to know that that's a possibility, but you also know like you can't just pencil in like, well, this guy's going to do this year, this next year, and then that the year after. You don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's definitely exciting and. I mean, this has got to be, I would assume, the plan for the Brewers in the foreseeable future to really invest in some of their younger international signings.
Yes, and I think that's something with the international complex in the Caribbean. Like that's been a point of emphasis because really, outside of the last few years, like they've had some international signings work, but like it wasn't so much of a focus.
Mm-hmm.
But now it really seems like it is. And then when you start kind of seeing results from it. I mean, you can really. I think it's that's something you can get excited about. Is that's an investment that they're making.
Mm-hmm.
You can get excited that they're doing that, and then what comes with that.
Mm-hmm. One player that feels like in spring training, and there's been a few. Well, actually, I'll hit up on a couple of these players. Rhys Hoskins, can we bubble wrap him because I mean he's been playing incredibly well. And that's the thing, too, is like, with baseball, I know we get caught up in spring training. Guys are going to go through slumps at some point in the regular season, right? There's going to be times, and you'd hope they're not long ones or a lot of them. But, I mean, all the talk about, okay, who's going to fill in for the power left by Willy Adames? If Rhys Hoskins can be that guy on a more consistent level than what he was last year, I mean, how big of a boost is that for that lineup that you can put him in the middle there and, maybe he can get you 30 home runs this year.
Right. It's, we've talked about it's going to kind of have to be a little bit of a by committee approach, but he's someone that has done it before. Now he's another year removed from the injury, so it may be a little bit more of a standard spring for him, but yeah, having a little bit more from him would go a long way to, this team ultimately achieving what it could.
Mm-hmm. And then, going back to third here, you got Vinny and Oliver Dunn, who just, they're continuing to hit well at the plate. Are they making the decision harder? I'm not saying they're everyday starters because one's hits from the left side of the plate, the other one hits from the right side of the plate and such. But are they making cases, to like, all right, you guys got to keep me on the roster here? Like I keep going back to Eric Haas last year or. Best case scenario would be if somebody's like a Jesus Aguilar that one year where he comes out and then, he ends up being an all-star and then home run derby and then everything kind of fell off after that. So, I mean, at this point, how do you not keep both of them?
It's tough, but yeah, that's when you're a guy in that position, all you want to do when you go into spring training is make a difficult choice for the team.
Mm-hmm.
You go out there, you take care of business, and then, let the chips fall where they may. Now, the thing interesting with Capra is he has no more minor league options left. So if he's not on the big league team, he's going to be exposed to waivers, and there might be a team that looks at his spring and says, hey, let's take a chance. So, that's another thing that might factor into it too.
All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll finish up the second hour. We got Cream of the Crop coming up, and then our new game, Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle. That's coming up after the top of the hour. We'll be back in just a few minutes.